Ever walked into a building and felt safe just because you saw someone in uniform inspecting everything? From the fire extinguishers to the emergency exits, that person is the reason things don't go terribly wrong. Well, your AWS cloud needs someone like that too, and that's where AWS Inspector steps in. Now imagine you just launched your first website. Let's say it's an online store for handmade African fashion items. Orders are coming in, people are visiting, you're pumped. But here's the thing, you have no idea if someone has sneaked into your backend, if your database is leaking information, or if you've left your front door wide open. You don't know if your app is secure. Now picture hiring a security inspector. Not the one that guards the door, but the one that walks through your entire store and checks for weak spots in your locks, expired fire extinguishers, or even unnoticed cracks in the wall. This inspector doesn't just wait until there's a fire. They check so you can fix things before they even break. That's exactly what AWS Inspector does. Now, in technical but very simple terms, don't worry, I got you. AWS Inspector is an automated security assessment tool from Amazon Web Services. It scans your cloud resources like your EC2 instances or your container images. It checks for vulnerabilities, for misconfiguration, and weak points in your infrastructure. And yes, I like to explain my terms in ways you're familiar with. Because when you can connect an idea to real life, the definition becomes unforgettable. Now let's get real. The cloud is powerful, but power without safety? Now that's dangerous. So why is AWS so important? If you're running an app, it tells you what can break before it actually does. If you are handling user data, it helps you protect their trust. If you're deploying updates, it checks that nothing critical is left open. Think of it like a body checkup for your cloud setup. You may look fine on the outside, but the inspector goes deep to check your vitals. Before we dive deeper, a quick side note of my AWS journey. When I started studying for cloud security, ChatGPT suggested I focus on the security part of AWS. But then I realized something. You can't protect what you don't understand. So before diving fully into cloud security, I had to understand things like what is an EC2 instance, how do APIs interact with services, and what does it mean when you say container images. So if you're watching this and you haven't taken the Cloud Practitioner course, I really suggest you do. It gives you the foundation to understand what you're even trying to secure. Now that we've understood what AWS Inspector is and why it matters, let's actually get into how to set it up. In this next part, I'll walk you through enabling it step by step, and we'll scan a sample EC2 instance to see what the report looks like. Alright, so you're welcome to my AWS console. But before we get right into this hands-on, if you have not seen one of my videos that spoke about behind the scenes of my cloud security journey, I'll suggest you do that because it actually displays one of the Udemy tutorials that I am using to learn AWS Inspector. So you'll be able to just learn alongside with me and it'd be easy for you to understand better. So as you can see already in my console, my recently visited has my Lambda, Amazon Inspector, EC2, and System Managers. That was when I was learning the hands-on in the tutorial. And that is what we are going to prove that I actually listened in class. Okay. So I'm going to start from the Amazon Inspector. You can just simply go to the search button and just type Inspector. And that can bring out Amazon Inspector straight up. Okay, so this is the dashboard of my Amazon Inspector. I forgot to mention, if you'll be using the Inspector for the very first time, you see that you only have a 15-day trial period. Okay, so it's written here in my own screen that you are in a 15-day free trial of EC2 scanning, ECL container scanning, Lambda standard scanning. But okay, so I'm going to be restricting this tutorial to EC2 and Lambda. So we're going to be scanning an EC2 instance and a Lambda function. So as you can see in my inspector dashboard, there are no instances yet, neither are there any container repositories or a Lambda function or even a code repository. And we're going to change that. So I'll be duplicating this tab. It's one way I like to learn just to have more rooms. And right here in this search button, we can just simply type EC2. I mean, we have to be able to create an EC2 instance to scan it. So we'll be creating an EC2 instance that will be using the Amazon inspector to scan to see if there are any vulnerabilities or any specific finding at all. Okay, so we'll be launching an instance, and you can do that in so many ways. You can either come here or you come here, but I'll just do that here. And what will I like to name this? You can give it whatever name you want to. That is if you are, learning alongside me, but just in case you're just watching, I'd like to call mine, let's say, Test Inspector. And as we move slowly, I'll be leaving this as my default because it has some pre-installed SSM, and that is going to help us. So for every other thing, I think, okay, for my key pair, I'll proceed without a key pair since this is just for experimental purpose. And every other thing will just be on default while I launch this instance. So this is just like a quick demo tutorial on how you can actually scan an EC2 instance to see if there are any vulnerabilities at all. It usually takes a while, but hopefully to complete soon. Okay. All right. Our instance has been created. We can check our instance here to see the state or the status rather. So we can see here in our instance that our state is running. We're going to be checking in our Amazon inspector to see, oh, okay. So we can see here that our instance has been discovered. Okay, and if we scroll down to see the weak space remediation, okay, nothing. I'm guessing this is because it's a fresh instance. Can proceed to reloading, but honestly, I doubt anything will come out of it because yet again, it is a fresh instance. But we need to really understand if indeed this instance is actually scanning. Because in the dashboard, we can see here that the instance has been discovered, but we don't know if the instance is scanning. And one way to do that is to come over here, the sidebar here, and check on account management. Now, under account management, the status is showing activated. The Amazon EC2 scanning is also showing activated. Every other thing is showing activated, but we need to check the instance in particular to be able to see. As you can see now, in the scanning states here, it is 0, not scanning 1. We have just one instance, and right now it is not scanning. Over here, the scanning is saying 0. Remember that we created one instance, and that one instance it's not even scanning, and under our scanning status is showing 0. So meaning that something is definitely wrong with this instance, and we're actually going to fix that. So if we come all the way down here and we scroll to this other end, we can see that the status here is showing unmanaged EC2 instance. A problem, right? When we click on this, and there's a link here, this please follow these instructions. Okay, this EC2 instance is not managed by SSM. Please follow these instructions to remediate this issue. Okay, so when we click on this instruction, let's see where it's going to take us to. Okay, so we were redirected to the systems manager and we have to execute the instance, I believe. Okay, so over here, show instance, show all instances. And there is our instance. Remember the name we gave it, test inspector. So when we click on this and we come over here to execute, that should do the trick. So right now we're waiting for our overall status. Hopefully all the status are successful. Okay, thankfully, it's showing success here. When we scroll all the way down, we can see that all the statuses here are all successful. So it is just a matter of time for our inspector to start scanning our instance. Right now, it wouldn't do that just immediately because it usually takes a while. But I'll be coming back in about an hour to refresh this, and then you'd see for yourself that RSC2 would be scanning, and then we proceed to doing the Lambda function. Okay, so usually it takes a while for inspector to reflect the changes made on the systems manager. But to pass time, we're going to proceed to doing the Lambda function, and we'll come back to see if the status has changed. Hopefully it does, because if it doesn't, we'll be doing it together. Okay, so just as I did when I was doing the EC2 instance, I'm going to also duplicate this page for the Lambda function. We're going to be creating a Lambda function for our inspector to notice and scan. Okay, so we go over here and type Lambda. If I have to give like a very brief overview of what an EC2 and a Lambda is, I'd say EC2s are just virtual servers, simply put. But Lambda, you would say Lambda functions are more like mini robots that, just appear and perform a specific task and then disappear. Okay, let's take for instance, you upload an image into your S3 bucket. What the Lambda would do is that it will come, resize the image, and then goes back. You don't have to manage the server. I don't know if you understand. All right, so we would click on this Lambda function. This shouldn't take a while. All right, so we are here in our Lambda functions dashboard. And if you scroll down, this is a brief, explanation of what the Lambda function can do. So it basically writes functions for those that are technical people or programmers. It just writes functions. I know what functions are just blocks of code that are executed when they're called. So when you create a function here, we are going to name it, or me, I am going to name it. Well, you just watch. Okay, let's say inspector function, or inspect function rather. Inspect function. I think this sounds better. I would like to use Python for here. Every other thing can just be left on default. So we'll come here and create our function. So remember that this is just a quick demo based on what I've learned in the tutorial. If you have more advanced way of really executing this and scanning your EC2 and your Lambda function, by all means, that's great. So I'm just testing myself basically to see that what I was taught in class stuck in. And one way to do that is to actually get your hands dirty. You can see here that our function has been created. And when we scroll all the way down, we'll see that there is an already, pre-written function here. So because I said that we're not going to do anything too serious, just for tutorial's sake, or just for my learning sake, or just for basically everything that I've learned sake, I'm just going to be changing this JSON dump or JSON, whatever way you like to pronounce it. And I write as testing my inspector scan. That doesn't sound great. That doesn't sound grammatically correct, but remember, we're just testing. All right, so let's test this. create new test events, and I'll probably be naming this maybe my event name this time. Enough of all the testing. Okay, so save this. While this has been saved, proceed to deploy. Okay, successfully updated the function. Successfully updated the function, inspect function. All right. Okay, so I think when we scroll down here, okay, I was thinking I would see something else, but let us proceed back to our Amazon inspector to see if that function has been discovered. Okay, so we can see that our Lambda function has been discovered by our inspector. And just as we did for the EC2 to check what is actually, and just as we did for the EC2 to see if it's actually scanning, we'll do the same thing for Lambda. We'll come over here to the account management and we will check our Lambda function. Oh wow, that's great. That was fast. So over here, we can see that the scanning is 1, meaning that it is actively scanning, while the non-scanning is 0. And you can see over here that the status is saying actively monitoring. And this is actually monitoring. If you go back to our dashboard, and okay, it's already reloading, but I'm trying to see if there are any vulnerabilities, although the chances that there would be any vulnerability is slim because we actually just created this Lambda function. If you want to try this, you can try creating a Lambda function or an EC2 instance and probably just leaving it over the weekend and see if you could discover. Chances are you may discover a vulnerability, but like I said, we are just getting our hands dirty. And we can see here that there are no findings. So as you can see now, I'm back and the status is displaying actively monitoring. So like I said earlier, usually it takes a while, but definitely it will be reflected and we'll see that this is actively monitoring. So the whole essence of this hands-on is to make you learn with me. This was one of the things that I learned when I was going through my course. All right, so we can see for ourselves now that even in the so we can see for ourselves that even in the dashboard of our inspector, there are no vulnerabilities found, and both our Lambda function and our EC2 instance are actively monitoring. I'd recommend that immediately, please, if you are running on a free trial, go and terminate your instance. The same with your Lambda function. These things can actually, you know, in the background just keep bills for you that you might not be mentally ready to pay. Okay, so that's I would say that's all for now. For now. Yeah, because there is a whole lot more from where this came from. I hope you enjoyed this hands-on as much as I did. Although I didn't entirely do it. I freaked out at so many points. But I just had to, keep my cool together to make sure that I sound confidently. If this was helpful, hit that like button. It tells YouTube this video is worth showing to others like you. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of AWS week and my entire cloud security journey. While making cloud security make sense,